Trump posted a video of himself dumping excrement on our cities. It's a glimpse of his deepest drives. This weekend, I was surprised to learn that Donald Trump seems to see himself in the same way I do, as a would-be monarch spraying the citizenry with excrement. On Saturday, perhaps stung by the enormous nationwide No Kings protests, Trump posted an AI-generated video on Truth Social that inadvertently captured his approach to governing. In it, the president, wearing a crown, flies a Top Gun-style fighter plane labeled King Trump above American cities crowded with demonstrators, dumping gargantuan loads of feces on them. Amplifying it on social media, the White House Communications Director Stephen Chung gleefully wrote that the president was defecating all over these No Kings losers. It is not at this point surprising that Trump holds half the country in contempt, or that he treats urban America as a group of restive colonies to be brutally subdued. This is a man who told the military it should use our cities as training grounds for foreign operations, and who has sent both troops and federal agents to terrorize Los Angeles and other cities. The president's attempts to demote the residents of Blue America from citizens to subjects have become so routine they barely make headlines anymore. What's curious, then, is not Trump's eagerness to degrade us, but his uncontrollable urge to defile himself and his office. Most national leaders, vengeful projection, since he cannot crush the dissent physically without severe political consequences, he crushes it symbolically. The act of dumping waste is a form of projection, attempting to transfer his own subconscious sense of being politically illegitimate onto his opponents. By depicting them as being covered in filth, he reduces the political landscape and the citizenry to raw, unusable waste. The pleasure of transgression, a perverse delight in breaking norms, has always coursed through MAGA circles. Scatological attack is a violation of the sacred/profane boundary. For the base, the willingness to say and do the utterly undignified is seen as proof of his authenticity, his rejection of the stuffy, corrupt elites, and his freedom from restraint. It transforms the leader from a figure of classical authority into a figure of carnivalesque rebellion. A perverse delight in defilement has always coursed through MAGA circles. Describing the profoundly cynical, curdled atmosphere in which 20th-century totalitarian movements took root, Hannah Arendt wrote, "It seemed revolutionary to admit cruelty, disregard of human values and general amorality, because this at least destroyed the duplicity upon which the existing society seemed to rest." A similar giddy nihilism has long surrounded the president and his devotees, who often treat his unlikely ascension as a world historical feat of trolling. 2. The aesthetic nihilism of the Trump administration. There's the slop of the simulacrum. The fact that the attack was delivered via AI-generated video is itself a profound aesthetic statement. The dominant aesthetic of the administration comes not from antiquity but from AI slop, the tackier and more juvenile the better. Rejection of craft, AI slop is inherently fast, cheap, and lacks artistic integrity, the antithesis of the classical aesthetic. Weaponizing immaturity, the choice to use this neutral, technologically advanced tool to generate something so primal and vile highlights the administration's willingness to weaponize any technology for the most infantile ends. Last week, when HuffPost asked the White House who chose Hungary as the site of an upcoming meeting between Trump and President Vladimir Putin of Russia, the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, responded, "Your mom did." She was obviously trying to insult and delegitimize a representative of the liberal media. But the result was to reveal herself as a gross parody of a professional press secretary. The aesthetics of degradation extend to physical acts of desecration. The demolition of White House facades and the planned UFC cage fight on the South Lawn, an idea that seems ripped from the scabrous 2006 satire Idiocracy, are symbolic efforts to impose the gold-plated, tacky, nouveau riche vision of Mar-a-Lago onto the restrained symbols of American self-government. The goal isn't to govern, but to troll the very institutions of the presidency. 3. Administrative nihilism, defiling the instruments of power. The Trump gang's compulsion to debase and cheapen almost everything they touch is far more than a matter of style. It is a form of administrative nihilism that attacks pillars of American strength that pose no challenge to his ideology. The rage against independence. The most puzzling thing about the second Trump administration has been its attacks on pillars of American strength that pose no challenge to its ideology. It was predictable that the White House would gut support for the humanities, but not that it would defund pediatric cancer research. I expected it to try to eliminate the Department of Education, but not to deliberately wreck the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, which helps communities in both red and blue states when they're beset by disasters. There was something so audacious about it, so inventive and barbaric, so low, he writes, adding, it would break through the final restraint, and there would be no going back. The AI video is the moment when the allegory becomes reality, when the final restraint is not only challenged but broken. The final restraint in a healthy democracy is the mutual, if sometimes grudging, acknowledgement of the opponent's humanity and legitimacy. When a leader adopts the aesthetic of defilement, the conscious desire to make the opposition filthy and the governing structures incompetent, that restraint is shattered. Fights over resources and beliefs can be settled. It's much harder to imagine rapprochement with those who want, above all, to befoul us. The Trump AI video is the perfect, repulsive symbol of a political force whose core identity is the destruction of dignity, both its own and the nation's, in the service of a fragile, narcissistic rage. This slashing and burning cannot be explained purely through small government ideology. It is a function of Trump's abusive insecurity and rage against institutions that operate according to their own rules and expertise, independent of the president's personal will. Hollowing out competence, functional institutions, a competent FEMA, a reliable State Department, represent autonomous power centers. For a leader obsessed with dominance, this independence is an affront. They must be weakened, hollowed out, or made dysfunctional. The cult of chaos. By dismantling agencies designed to mitigate crises, the administration ensures that future crises will be more severe. This manipulation induces fear and uncertainty, reinforcing the public's dependence on the charismatic leader, the King Trump, who presents himself as the only one capable of cutting through the mess he himself often helped create. Devaluing the common good. When pediatric cancer research is defunded, it sends a clear message that the common good, the selfless pursuit of knowledge and health that benefits all citizens, holds no intrinsic value compared to the leader's immediate political or personal need for revenge. The political goal is the destruction of dignity and the shared stake in American society. 4. The breakage of the final restraint. Some of this slashing and burning can be explained by the old-fashioned small government fanaticism of administration personnel like Russell Vought, director of the White House Office of Management and Budget. But it also seems like a function of Trump's abusive insecurity. Part of him wants to aggrandize the country to reflect his own inflated self-conception.